Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm so excited that we have Tricia on the phone. I'm going to let Tricia explain what she does because she's going to do a much better job of that because she's got some awesome words to explain what she does. But I met Tricia at a networking event probably about a year ago. And I loved her. At love, you are still alive. I love her energy. I love her enthusiasm with what she does. But for me, the highlight is she's such a creative force and she's able to weave that into what she does to help people and creating her business. And just a couple people were on the phone, and maybe Tricia, you will talk about this, but behind her, I said, look at that gorgeous painting. And
Okay, let me kind of angle
she
up
said to
there.
me, that's my business plan. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
I've been able to do some one-on-one coaching with
Mhm.
Tricia as she's growing her business. And one of the things that she said she could do was come on and do an event like this for my team. So I'm so happy that you guys are here and that Tricia is here with us, giving us her valuable time. And I'm so appreciative. So Tricia, I want to pass it over to you so you can do the best job of being able to explain to people exactly who you are, how you come to us on this earth, and what you can help us do.
All right, thank you so much. And so, yes, I'm Tricia Ballard. I am a writer, an artist, a mom, and an intuitive soul work coach. And so, what that means is that I am really, really passionate about helping people figure out what it is that is theirs to do on this earth, what they love, what energizes them, what gets them to bounce out of bed in the morning, and that can also pay the bills. I am not a fan of the starving artist thing. Um, that's one of those hot button issues for me, and I will rant about it all night long. So we'll leave that there. Um, and so I actually started my entrepreneurial journey when I was 24, 25. I had two little ones and a third on the way. And I was working a pretty good job, actually. I was a programmer. I worked in web applications. And, it was kind of as good as it gets, really. And except that I was bored out of my mind and felt like I was spending the best hours of my day locked in a cube, bored out of my skull, and not doing what I wanted to be doing. And so I kind of made an exit plan, and it actually happened the day that my manager offered me a promotion. I said, well, actually, I'm going to be leaving to become a writer. And I did that for several years, wrote several books, and a few years ago found this thing called intentional creativity. And that kind of just spun me in circles. And what intentional creativity is very, very simply, it's creating something with an intention. And I came to it from a place of anxiety and depression. And for me, it was life changing. And so in 2017, or 2018, excuse me, I became a certified intentional creativity teacher, which enables me to teach lovely paintings like this in, kind of longer form processes. And this year I was given the opportunity to go a little bit deeper with the Intentional Creativity Foundation and earn their coaching certification. And I said, okay, sure, I can do that. And it was really then that it sparked for me that this is what I've always done, and didn't realize that it was called coaching. All I knew was that throughout my life, I've ended up being that person that people talk to. And whether it's the checker in Target telling me their life story, or, friends getting on the phone, or whatever it is. And so for me, this is my soul work. This is what I was put on this earth to do. And so I am just really, really grateful to Lori for bringing me to meet all of you. And this talk actually came out of a conversation Lori and I had about this group. And she said that, one of the things that she was really emphasizing was this idea of touching your business every day. And, that's wonderful advice. And I was kind of thinking about that and thought about, okay, well, why don't we do that? And I have had several businesses throughout the years as I was searching for what is my thing to do. And I've found that there are some businesses that are kind of like a plate of cookies sitting on the counter that you cannot walk by without snagging one, right? And then there are other businesses or parts of business that are more like, eating broccoli. It's like, it's good for you, you have to do it, but it doesn't, you do it because you have to, not because you want to. And what I have found in the last 15 years or so of entrepreneurship is that the most successful businesses are the ones that feel more like ice cream than like broccoli. And that's really what I want to guide you through today, is that process of transforming your business from something that you have to do to something that is almost addictive, that, if you have 15 minutes, you go, oh, what can I do? I can do this 5-minute thing. I can do this. I can do this. Because what you'll find is that those 5 minutes and 5 minutes and 5 minutes really add up. So to get started, and this is something that I really love to do on every call. So it's a little different. You're going to have to just kind of go with me here. What I would love to do is take maybe 30 seconds. And if you have a piece of paper and a pen or a marker, that's awesome. That's great. If you don't, then just kind of maybe think about it, but I'll give you about 30 seconds. And I would love for you to draw on your paper 2 boxes. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move this painting and I'm going to draw on the wall here. I'm going to move you. I do have paper on the wall here. I'm not actually drawing on the wall. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So you've got 2 boxes. And over here, I would love for you, as you're thinking, just be moving the pen. And this isn't drawing class. Stick figures are perfect. But put in some doodles here of the things that you love doing in your business. And I want to make it clear here that this is not a right answer, wrong answer kind of thing. And you can't do this wrong. So over here, this is things I love. And then over here are the things that you avoid, the things you procrastinate on, the things that you have to do, but they just kind of feel heavy in your body. So let's go ahead and take just a quick, I'll set a 30-second timer. And go ahead and doodle in your 2 boxes and see what comes up for you. All right. That was quick. So what I would love to do now, I'm actually going to move the painting here because I think we're probably going to draw a lot here, or I will. There we go. Okay. So what I would love to do is just go around and have each of you share maybe what's coming up for you. So Lori, can we kind of go around and unmute each person?
Yeah, they should be able to unmute themselves too.
Okay.
So who wants to go first?
All right, Thomas.
Yeah, I love meeting new people and talking to new people, making new contacts,
All right. So what do you avoid?
calling people.
Oh, the phone. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Who's next?
I'll go next.
All right.
So I
Lynn.
love networking people to people. I don't like doing it on social media and sharing all of our information.
Mhm.
And I hate keeping the records.
Yeah.
I hate the record keeping. I hate the keeping it organized. Who did I sell? Who did I this? And I have a husband who's on my case 24/7 about did you log it? Did you log it? Leave me alone. You take care of it for me. You take care of that for me. Yeah.
So the nagging doesn't make it better.
No, of course not. Makes it worse.
Of course. Yes. Cool. And we're going to actually come back to that because that is a perfect thing. All right.
I'll go next because same. So I love meeting with people. Like when I sit down and meet with them and I share with them and they order it and they get it. Like I just love that feeling of like them saying yes. I just and equally when I follow up with them and they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like that just fills me up totally. And I love the presenting part, like when I actually like do the education presenting part of it. And then what I avoid, I'm with Lynn, like I hate the details. I couldn't tell you how many bottles I've sold because I don't know. Like my husband's asking me, he's like, Kara, I need for budgeting, you know, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't. Like I started out keeping track and no details, no keeping track.
Awesome. All right.
I'll go.
Lori.
I love this. Why I just remember this is the last thing I put in the I love. I love making money. That's what I love to do. Like, don't be afraid to say that, people, you know?
Absolutely.
I love helping people. I'm a helper. That's my profession, right? But I love making money. I love doing Zoom calls with my team, with my individual people. I love that. I love our Voxer, keeping in touch, keeping informed, learning, educating. I love doing the traveling. Like Tuesday, I'm getting on a plane to go to the all expense paid trip to Mexico that I qualified for with our company. I love traveling to the big conferences and learning in that training setting. And I love coaching people. I absolutely love it. And what I avoid is the phone. I hate the phone. I hate the phone especially when it's people you don't know, right? But the phone and then follow-ups, or as we call them, F you.
I'll go next.
All right.
So I love talking to people, social media, in wellness groups. Love meeting people. I love helping people, educating people on the right things and not the wrong things. What do I avoid is speaking in front of a crowd of people. I don't like lots of people unless I know them very well. I get very nervous and my hand starts shaking. I look like an idiot. But anyways, that's about, and phone calls are tough. I rather write a message or text someone. Or now that I found the message on Facebook, I can do that. That's good.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. All right, who's next? I don't think we've heard from Tina,
I'll go.
Carrie, Kathy. Yes.
Okay. I love helping people feel better. And I love, hold on, I'm sorry, I'm learning new things that I can share with other people. And the things I try to avoid are presentations and the big FUs.
All right. Cool.
All right,
Hi,
Catherine's
it's
gonna go
Carrie.
next.
Oops,
Oh,
sorry. I'll go.
Catherine.
Um,
Oh, Carrie.
oops, it's cutting out. Me? Um, we all kind of have the same things. I love meeting people. I can meet people all day long and talk to people. I love doing tons of education classes and big groups, small groups. I don't care. I love doing that. I love hearing people are healing and feeling better because of me having the guts to bring this up to them. So that kind of gives me courage to do this. And I hate phone calls too, just like everybody else, especially to people you don't really know well. Why is that? We got to get over this. And taxes. I'm working on my taxes at my appointment's Thursday. So I'm working. Yeah, I need to work on that tonight and this week. So just keeping track like everybody else talks about. I have about 75% kept track of. The rest, I don't know. So.
All right, Catherine's going next.
Hi, I'm sitting here over Donna's shoulder. I love knowledge, creativity. I love researching. Give me something to research and I'll do it until the cows come home. I love music. What I avoid is finding new people because I don't know how.
Okay.
Calling people on the phone that I don't know, and unorganized people I will run because I don't know. I have to. Everything has to be systematic with me.
Just like me. Yeah, I'm surprised she's not running.
All right. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken? I know Susan said she couldn't talk right now.
I can go if you want. I just had to
Yeah.
switch my headphones. Making money, Lori, is big. I love educating people about health. I love meeting new people. I love all the things that we do, Lori, that you do to pour into us, like all the education. I mean, everything, just all encompassing. What you're doing for us tonight, Tricia, amazing. Thank you. All of that, like that's been a part of me forever, and I just never tapped into it because I was afraid of it. So that's the other box. Big fear, huge fear of what other people are going to think, of all the opposition I've gotten, of all the, I can't say it really loud, but my husband is like the worst. So I'm working on fixing that. So, and then just having people really just not wanting to listen is just really, really difficult for me. And I'm really horrible at time management, horrible. So I am really working hard at that. I work a lot of different jobs and I'm trying to figure out where everything's going to fit pocket wise. And I try to start it in January and it didn't work out. So now I'm retrying again to see where I can, where everything's going to go and how everything's going to work out. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm right there with you in the juggling of a lot of different commitments. And I've remind me, because I had a huge breakthrough on that, like literally yesterday morning, that I think might be really helpful for you. But I can talk to you after the call. Cool. All right. So let me just make a note of that because I will forget.
Well, I would love to hear that time management thing myself. So.
All right. So you know what? What I will do is I'll put together an email.
Sounds good.
Yeah, let me just make a note here.
Thank you so much. That would be amazing.
Okay, so what I'm hearing here is that we've all got a lot of the same parts that we like and a lot of the same parts that are really hard. And yet the hard parts are sort of essential, some of them. Some of them are more internal, like you're talking about speaking in front of a crowd or getting on the phone. That's a huge one with me. I'm terrified of my phone, which is, you know, it is what it is, but I am absolutely terrified of my phone. Speaking before a crowd, finding new people, being afraid of what people are going to say or think of you. Those are all internal. And so I'm going to get to those kind of toward the end. And then looking at my notes here, because I want to make sure I stay on track. The bits about organization, keeping track of the details. A lot of that really has to do with both not having systems that work for you. You're trying to follow someone else's system because you've been told that, well, this is how to do it. And what I have learned is that there is no one size fits all. And so, you know, if you're trying to do something because it's how you've been told how to do it, and every single time you sit down to record a sale or do your, you know, fill out your expenses or whatever, you get that sense of like gut level, oh God, you know, suddenly that sink full of dirty dishes seems like the most important thing you have to do today. That's a really good sign that, you know, it's not that you can't do it. I mean, every single one of you is highly intelligent, highly creative, highly able to, you know, make things happen. It's absolutely absurd that, you know, to think that you can't record a sale, right? And so that really is a good way to lead into the meat of what I want to teach today, which are the 4 pillars of a business that really is run on pleasure, a business that makes you feel good every time you deal with it or work on it. Because what we know is that we are hardwired. Our brains are hardwired to seek out pleasure. You know, it's why we eat a bowl of ice cream after dinner, even though we're not hungry. It's why we, you know, have a glass of wine. It's why we have sex. It's why we, you know, go shopping. It's because all of these things trigger our brains to release a little squirt of dopamine. And, you know, it's a pleasure hormone. It makes us feel good. And what we want to do is train our brains to have that same reaction every time we work on a business. Because, well, if you get if you feel good every time you record a sale, every time you pick up the phone, every time you know, whatever, well, you're going to do it a lot more often, right? So, and that's really one of the reasons that I asked you to bring to mind some of the things you love about your business, because I want you to kind of have that experience of what does it feel like in your body, in your mind, in your emotions when, you know, you're talking to somebody and they get it, right? That it feels different physically than when you have to sit down and do your taxes or follow up or, you know, do some of these other activities. And so what we want to do is sort of shift that feeling so that it covers a wider spectrum of activities in your business. So the first thing that I want to talk about are systems, because if you think about driving to the car or you're driving around and a little light pops on in the car that says you need gas. Okay, pumping gas is not an inherently pleasurable activity, but very few of us will, avoid it until our car runs out of gas, right? The thing pops up, you need gas, all right, fine, I'll pull into the gas station, you pump gas, you're on your way. You hardly even think about it because it's a routine. It's something that, you really don't make a decision about it so much. You might think, okay, well, I'm going to go to this other gas station because it's 5 cents cheaper. Or, I might think, can I hold off until my husband gets in the car and make him pump gas? But, we really don't, it's not something that we put off forever because first off, if you do, your car won't go. But we don't necessarily have that same dread of pumping gas that we do for some of these other activities. And the reason for that is that it is just something we do. It's habit, it's a system. Most of us go to the same gas stations every time. There's about two gas stations that I go to. There's one next to my house and one next to the grocery store. And most of us, unless we're like driving somewhere and we have to, most of us go to the same gas station because it's a system. And so one of the things that will happen if you can apply that to your business is that we eliminate decision fatigue. And I was looking this up. We make something along the lines of 50,000 decisions every single day, which is insane. And every single one of those decisions takes a little tiny bit of energy. Obviously some decisions take a lot of energy to make because they're momentous and you have to think about them and research and analyze. But things like, which cereal am I going to have? What shirt am I going to wear? Am I going to, walk the dog now, or am I going to finish this up and then go walk the dog? Things like that. Every single one of those little decision points takes energy. And so then by the end of the day, what we end up doing is taking the path of least resistance. And so what that means for your business is that I'm pretty confident that by 8 o'clock at night, are any of you doing anything from that avoid list? Probably not, because you're tired. You don't have the energy, and it takes energy to overcome the resistance to doing the things you don't really want to do. Okay? So this is really the reasoning behind the advice that you've heard, probably to do the hard things first, because you've got more energy in the morning after coffee. Don't do anything before coffee, but before you've made those 50,000 decisions. And so one of the things that I do in my own business is I know the night before, usually around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's when my energy levels start to dip. Right about 2:30 in the afternoon, I will plan what I'm going to do the next day. And that way, first thing in the morning, those decisions have already been made. I don't have to make those decisions. And I will generally put the hard things first, because then again, I've already overcome the decision fatigue. And it's easier to make a decision about something that is going to happen tomorrow. It's easier to say, yeah, okay, I'm going to make 3 phone calls tomorrow morning, because you don't have to do it right now. So you're sort of tricking your brain a little bit. But then you also are going to sleep going, okay, I know that first thing in the morning, I'm going to make these 3 phone calls. And then once I make those 3 phone calls, then the rest of my day is easier. And so there's that reward built in of, okay, I did this hard thing and now I get to coast the rest of the day. Or I did this hard thing and now I get to do the fun part of my business. And so what that does then is we are giving your brain a positive association. So it takes, I don't know, something like 12 or 15 positive experiences to overcome your brain's reaction to one negative experience. So if you have ever had a negative phone call, it's going to take about 15 really, really good phone calls to overcome your brain's natural resistance to doing another phone call. And that's an evolutionary thing. It's so that, you know, back in the, you know, prehistory days, well, you know, you saw somebody go pet a baby tiger and it didn't go well. Well, now you know not to do that. And so, you know, that's one of the things that having those systems in place will help you overcome, is that decision fatigue, and also training your brain to associate good things with getting the hard bits done. So, and Lori, you're going to have to, you know, give me a heads up if I'm talking too long, because I will talk. I get excited about this. This is the part of my business I like. So, all right. So we talked about systems and why those will help you. It'll help make everything easier. The next thing I want to talk about is the one that I know that the ladies in the room have heard over and over. And if you're anything like me, you cringe. Self-care. And what this is about is making sure that you have that energy to do what you need to do. If you are depleted physically, emotionally, energetically, you know, then again, you're going to take that path of least resistance. So having a good self-care plan in place is really, really critical. I was telling Lori the other day, I take a nap every single day, just about. And, you know, because what I have learned is I need about 10 or 11 hours of sleep every day in order to function. If I don't nap by about, you know, 4 o'clock, when I have kids coming home from school and we're getting into the evening stuff and I got to make dinner, I'm crying tired. So it's like, okay, this is what I need to do. And, you know, we somehow learned that doing what is good for us, doing what feels good, is somehow something that we should feel guilty about. And I'm going to stand up right here and say, no, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. Because we are, all of us, in the business of helping people. Well, we can't do that if we're running on empty. And, you know, we need to embody what we are selling. And so if you think about, I had a really, really amazing piece of advice when I first started this coaching journey. A mentor of mine said, well, you know, if you're telling other people to live an inspired life of their own choosing, you'd better be walking that talk. It's like, oh, yeah, huh? Well, if you're telling people to live their healthiest life, you have an obligation to do that for yourself first. And, you know, I mean, obviously I don't have to tell you how good CBD is, but there's, you know, getting adequate rest, nutrition, you know, doing something physical, but it's more than just the physical. It's also, you know, are you taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally and spiritually, you know, energetically? And, you know, if that feels like one more thing on the to-do list, that's a really, really good sign that you're running on empty. So, you know, that's another thing to kind of keep in mind, that taking care of yourself should be a major part of how you run your business. And, you know, and that can even look like, you know, I will curl up on the couch with my dogs under a blanket to do my accounting. And what it is, okay, well, I am going to make myself feel as good as I possibly can to tolerate, to, you know, tackle this tough job. And over time, it was like, okay, the only time I'm going to sit with this blanket with the dogs on, you know, and kind of create this atmosphere is when I'm doing something really difficult. And so then it's like, okay, now I'm starting to look forward to doing the challenging things because I know that I'm going to curl up under this blanket and it feels really good. And I guess I'll have to find something else when it's 90 degrees outside, but that's okay. So then the third thing, we're kind of, what I'm doing here is we talked about external, the systems that help you overcome that decision fatigue. Then we kind of went internal to your self-care. Now we're going back external and talking about habits. So you've heard me mention resistance. And this is something that writers and artists talk about quite a bit when, you know, you have something that you want to work in, you're passionate about it, you're, you know, driven to do it, and yet you get in front of the canvas, you get in front of the blank page, whatever, and all of a sudden you freeze up and you're like, okay, I don't know what to do, I'm gonna go walk the dog. And, you know, our businesses are the same way, where I can't tell you how many times I have hired a babysitter when my kids were younger and, you know, gone out to a coffee shop, and all of a sudden I sit there and I've got my laptop open and I'm gonna get stuff done, and half an hour later I'm staring at Facebook. And what that is we end up having all of these fears coming out as, you know, your brain just sort of blanks out and you go, okay, I am going to make these 3 phone calls, or I'm going to record my sales, I'm going to do my taxes, I'm going to do whatever. And all of a sudden you're staring there and you're like, all right, I'm going to do it. And, you know, I experience it sometimes as I all of a sudden get really sleepy. All of a sudden, you know, you got to get a snack first. And then, oh, you know, I better go walk the dogs. Oh, you know, all of a sudden I will notice every single piece of dirt in my house and have to clean that before I can do this. And it's a form of procrastination, but it's not, you're not doing it intentionally. It's your subconscious brain trying to protect you from something that is hard and scary. And so, you know, in a way, it's trying to protect you. It really is. It's, you know, your brain is trying to save you from something unpleasant. Unfortunately, you know, you have to be able to recognize that and then overcome it. And that is not always easy. And so this is where habits come in. So, you know, we're talking about, several of you mentioned that doing the paperwork is the part you dread or the part that you avoid. So what if it just became a habit that every Tuesday, that's paperwork day, and that's all you have to do that day? And if you're done by 9 a.m., hey, you got a day off. Awesome. But it becomes a habit. And habits are formed through repetition. And what that allows you to do is kind of go on a mental autopilot. So, you know, I'm trying to think of an example here, but, you know, oh God. And the first thing that comes to my mind, of course, I mentioned that I'm a mom. I have 4 kids. So that's kind of my frame of reference. But, you know, changing dirty diapers, it is not pleasant. Depending on what the kid ate, it can be very unpleasant, but it's also just sort of a habit. It's like, oh, okay, the baby's crying, change the diaper, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You get desensitized after a while to unpleasant tasks. through repetition. And so, and at the same time, the longer that you put them off, the bigger it becomes and the harder it is to even start. And so, you know, I was working with a weight loss coach for a while, and they told me, okay, every single morning, weigh in, every single day. And I'm thinking, that's not going to make any difference. But what it did was it removed the fear of the scale. It removed that, oh my God, I had a bowl of ice cream last night and a glass of wine, and you know, I've gained 3 pounds, and oh my God. But if you do it every single day or every week, or, you know, on a schedule, then you sort of get desensitized to it. And then all of a sudden, you know, a month later, you're like, yeah, this really isn't that bad. I mean, it might not be fun, but at least it's not that bad. You know, you get in, you get it done, and off you go. And then the fourth pillar, the fourth bit that really needs to be in place, and this really kind of, I feel like, infiltrates everything. So if you get one thing right, this is probably the one thing to get. And that is making friends with your inner critic. So what do I mean by the critic? The critic is that voice in your head that says, if you make this phone call, they're going to think you are, insert whatever it is here. Don't do that paperwork because you're going to screw it up. Or you're going to find out that you didn't do as well as you wanted to, or, you know, whatever the insecurity or the thing is, we've all got it. And for most of us, we got the critic sometime in early childhood. And the way that this happens is we got hurt. Every single one of us at some point got hurt. And something clicked in our brains, and that protective thing kicked in, and it said, I am never going to get hurt that way again. And so when we're small and we are vulnerable and dependent on others, it's a safety thing, it's a protective thing, and it sort of helps us learn the rules of society a little bit, that, you know, okay, you know, it helps us learn who's safe to be vulnerable with and who's not on the playground. And, you know, but as we grow older and we're more capable of taking care of ourselves, that part of our brain doesn't go away. It doesn't grow with us. And so that starts the whole, you know, every insecurity you've ever had is this critic voice. You know, every time you've walked into a room and thought, oh God, I don't want to talk about this because they're going to think I'm this or that or the other thing. Same deal. Excuse me. You know, every time you've looked in the mirror and, you know, have had those negative thoughts about yourself, about your situation, about whatever, it's all, you know, any thought that you've had that has been keeping you small, that has been about not taking risks, that's the critic. And what we really need to do is move from the critic that will rip you to shreds to a more of a guide and a guardian figure that can be more discerning, that can help you recognize when, okay, maybe this isn't the forum to, you know, maybe you don't want to walk into, and I don't know where it would be inappropriate to talk about CBD. I don't know. I'm sure there's somewhere that would be, you know, just utterly ridiculous, but I can't think of it right now. But, you know, if you've got something like that where it really wouldn't go well, then you want to listen to that voice. But you have to be able to, you have to know your own voice distinct from that critic so that you can make the decision between, oh, okay, this is a voice of discernment that's saying, you know, this isn't a safe place, and that truer voice that says, okay, this is a risk, but I am not in danger. So, and you know, I said that if you got one thing from this call, that it would be to get a better understanding of the critic. And the reason for that is that resistance that we talked about, that will show up as soon as you sit down to do the hard thing, that's the critic right there. That is that sense that, you know, it's going to do whatever it has to do to keep you safe. And in this case, safe from making that phone call or doing the paperwork, or, you know, whatever it is. And a lot of times this shows up as an instinctive fight, flight, or freeze reaction. And so the way that looks in this context is you either end up getting very frustrated, very angry, very, you know, the first thing that goes wrong, you just want to throw it down and go, I can't do this. So that would be a fight response. A flight response would be all of a sudden, you know, I got to get out of here. I got to leave the room. I have to go do something else. You know, all of a sudden I have to go do errands. I have to go, there's something else, you know, you run away from it. Okay. And then there's the freeze response, which is a little bit less well known. And that's sort of just paralysis. It shows up a lot of times as brain fog, or where you just sit there and you're staring at it. You're going, okay, I've got to just do this. And you're kind of, but you can't quite move forward. And so, and I've gotten stuck in that point for an hour, just staring at something going, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I got to punch through it. You know, got to push through. And that's not really very helpful. It's not effective. A better way to handle that is to take a step back and to recognize what's going on and go, okay, this is the critic. I know what this is. I understand that, you know, it's trying to save me from something that I'm afraid of or I'm worried about, but I got this. And what you'll most often find is that if you can come to that recognition, then that whatever it is, you know, for me, it's usually fatigue, brain fog, anxiety will kind of just dissipate because, oh, okay, I got this. And then you can move forward. So those are those four pillars. Having some systems that reduce the decision fatigue, having a strong self-care plan, creating habits to put the hard stuff on autopilot as much as you possibly can, and to desensitize you to the hard stuff. And then to start to recognize that critic and to work with it more directly. So how am I doing on time, Lori?
We're just approaching an hour now.
Okay, cool. So I do have a couple more things that I would love to slip in here if I've got time. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was, you know, it's kind of at the very beginning of the call, I talked about how some things are the bowl of ice cream in your business and some things are the bowl of broccoli. I want to talk about a little bit of ways that we can kind of dress up the broccoli to make it a little more palatable. And one of the ways that I do this that's actually really effective is to reframe the stories that we tell around those tasks. And so for myself, you know, I mentioned that I absolutely am terrified of making phone calls. I hate getting on the phone. You know, I will text, I will email, but yeah, I'll do Zoom. That's fine. But get me on a phone? No, don't want to do it. And yet there are times when I have to. There are times when that's just the best way to accomplish what I need to accomplish. So first off, there's the assumption that, okay, do I really have to use the phone to make this communication? Is there any other way that I could do this? And sometimes there is, and sometimes there's not. So, you know, the first thing that you can do is, you know, do I really have to do this directly? You know, some of you mentioned, you know, the paperwork and the details and stuff. Well, are there easier ways for you to keep track of that other than doing the paperwork? I don't know. That's, you know, I don't know your business and how it works, but, you know, I have literally done things where instead of having to fill out a form, I will put, you know, I had a to-do system for a while where I would put a task on a Post-it note, and then every time I finished it, I'd wad it up and put it in a jar so that I could see what I had done that day. Because I was struggling with feeling like I hadn't accomplished anything for a while. So, you know, sometimes even just moving from writing out a paper form to doing something more visual or more tactile will suddenly make that less of a burden. But if it is something that, you know, it's taxes, you can't not do taxes, then I actually had a friend of mine talked about how she's grateful every time she pays her bills. I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting, you know. And what she talked about was she had developed this method of reframing where instead of feeling like, oh God, I got to pay this and I got to pay this, and I'm, you know, it was every time she wrote out a check for the electric bill, I'm grateful that I have lights on. Every time she wrote out a check for her rent, I'm grateful that I have a warm, safe home. And so, you know, there may be some way that you can reframe, you know, the paperwork or the phone calls that you have to make, the follow-ups that, you know, I'm grateful that I can reach out to this person and meet them where they are. And, you know, it seems sort of hokey a little bit, but it really does. If you can shift the story that you tell about the task, it really does shift your brain. And, you know, it has to be believable. You have to be able to, you know, if you sit there and say, oh, I'm so grateful that I get to make these phone calls, you're not going to believe it. I've tried. But, you know, if you can find something that about the task that is beneficial, you know, you can say, hey, I may not like following up with people, but I have 10 people that are at least somewhat interested in what I'm doing. And that's more than I had 2 days ago. And, you know, I'm confident that I'm going to follow up with these 10 people, and, you know, 1 or 2 of them are going to change their lives because I had the courage to follow up with them. So, you know, having that ability to reframe can take some of the that negativity out of tasks that you sort of dread. And then I want to talk about, I know I'm talking too much if I'm drinking that much water, but the other thing that I wanted to kind of throw out there for you to kind of put in the back of your head is we talk a lot about these ideas of should. Oh, I really should do this. I really should do that. Well, there's two things. First off, if you really should do it, you're not, because if you were actually doing it, you wouldn't say I should. You'd say, oh, I did that, or I'm doing this. And then things that we say that, oh, we should do it, we probably aren't actually going to do. And there's generally two reasons for that. The first is it's probably something that someone else told you was important, but that maybe isn't your priority, or that you haven't totally bought into. And if it's not that, then the reason that it's a should instead of a I'm going to do this or I have done this is that we are all terrified of negative feelings because they feel bad. I mean, that's pretty normal. But there's, I mentioned before that it takes something like 10 or 15 positive experiences to overcome the trauma of a single negative experience. So it could be that if you look at your should do list, if you can look at the things on your should do list or your avoid list that we made and say, okay, is this really going to be bad, or is it going to make me experience something negative, or is it, well, I had one negative experience and so I'm predicting the future based on that path. And so if you can take that should list and first off get rid of anything that isn't truly your priority, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's everything you want to do. Obviously, you have to do taxes, even if you don't want to. They are your priority, because if you don't do them, the nice men from the IRS are going to show up, and that's unpleasant. So but things like social media, I was talking to a coaching client the other day, and she was telling me, well, I really want to write like this, but everybody's telling me that I have to keep it short and I have to put out sound bites and I have to do this and I have to do that. So, okay, no, be you. And so we kind of talked about that, and it turned out that no, she was dreading writing her sales letter, not because she didn't want to write it, but because she was so hung up on all these things that outside forces were telling her she should do. And once we got through all of that, she sat down on our coaching call and wrote the entire thing, because suddenly it was able to flow out of her. So, once you can whittle away all the stuff that's not yours on your should list, then you can look at the things that are that maybe you're avoiding or procrastinating on because you're afraid of the feelings that it's going to provoke, and go and really take a look at that and go, okay, is this really going to make me feel dread or frustration or boredom or whatever the feeling is, or is it really pretty neutral, but I had one bad experience? So let's see here. I just want to make sure that I've covered everything I wanted to give you. I've got a lot more that I wanted to. I feel like I've just sort of skimmed the surface here, but I think that is everything. And I would love to open up to questions. If anybody wants to get in the hot seat. I know I went over a ton of stuff tonight. I was kind of rapid firing.
I like the way that you talked about reframing.
Yeah.
I think that's super important. So now I know I'm going to look at a task and look at it differently, reframe it, I guess. So thank you for that, because that's not something that I thought about before. I know we do it in other capacities, but when it came to the business, I never applied it. So thank you.
You
Wonderful.
know who's
Thank
a
you.
master at reframing is Carrie Rudow. Many times in this journey, she's been able to come on and reframe something, and I'm like, wow, that feels different. So and that's one thing I super, super appreciate working with Carrie, because she has this beautiful talent to be able to reframe, and it feels so different. And that's something I super appreciate about you, Carrie. Makes a big, big difference.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
One of the things I put a big star by when you're talking about self-care, if it feels like another thing to do, then you're empty. I underlined that. I mean, I work a full-time job as a global manager, and I'm trying to do this business, and I want to do the business, but I need to exercise, and I need to cook healthier, and I need to do all these other things, and follow up with my family, and it just it needs to be top priority before I can do these other things. So I wrote that down.
Yeah, and I hear you on the exercise thing. I was the kid that skipped gym as often as I could get away with it. So all right. So if nobody's got any questions, I will definitely send out an email with that kind of time and attention management breakthrough that I had. And I apologize, it's going to be rough, because it kind of hit me over coffee yesterday morning. So it's very, very much in the I'm figuring this out as I go stage. So if you want to, Lori, do you want to send me a list of emails and I'll send that out?
Okay, the team's gonna know I'm the worst at emails. And everyone's gonna be like, yeah, I say, if you want my attention, never ever email me. So Tricia, why don't you send me the email, and then I will do my best to get it out to people, because email is my least favorite way of communication. I have everyone's cell phone numbers. I text all these beautiful people, but
Where it says on share screen, we could put our emails there.
oh, you could do that. Oh,
if you want to put it in the chat,
put it in the chat. That's a great idea. Put it in the
perfect.
chat.
Yeah,
I'm not just a pretty face.
And then Tricia, I can do a screenshot for you and then send that to you.
Perfect.
You don't have to hurry up and write it down. So everyone, put your emails in the side.
You're so smart, Donna.
Chat, I meant, not share screen.
Chat.
Who's sharing their screen? Tina, you don't need to share your screen.
Oh, I meant chat.
Tina, you're sharing your screen.
Why can't I write? Oh.
There you go.
Is that better? I'm so sorry. Like,
I'm like, who's sharing their screen? It's not me.
I'm listening, I promise. I was trying to figure out how to put all that in there.
Hey, Lori, you don't even
chat.
Yeah. Lori, you don't even need to send me a screenshot, because I can just save the chat right here.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great.
Yeah, once everybody's done.
Jeff, Catherine?
How come I can't get to the chat? Someone's screen.
I wanted to thank you for this, and there were some things that just kind of jumped out at me, and it was when you were, and it's interesting how you hear things that you've heard before, but then it all of a sudden has like a different meaning to it. And you were talking about it takes 15 positives to overcome a negative, and I kind of get that, but what I realized was that negative that happened to us a long, long time ago, and how that's still driving those micro decisions that we're making now. Like, I never put those two together. Like, I knew about the things that happen when you're a kid. Like, I knew that from then, but I never put those two together. Like, oh my gosh, that's why I have all of this fear of like, I have this fear of doing everything. Like I won't do it unless I do it right. So there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get done because I have this perfectionism thing going on. So, and that's because that's what I grew up with. Like my whole family is so critical. Like that's what I grew up with. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I hear you. I've got a little bit of that going on too. With that fear of being judged harshly.
Realization.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. All
And for
right.
some reason, I can't get to the chat.
Are you hitting the chat?
Are you on your computer or are you on an iPad?
I'm on my computer, but all that comes up here is write your review for Zoom.
Lynn, what's your email address? I'll type it in for you.
Thank you. LB Tooma, TOOMA, 1018 @gmail. Thanks. I don't know what happened. All I have up here is Zoom. Write your review.
Mercury's in retrograde. That's what happens.
Exactly.
Tricia, thank you so much for being here with us. I valued our time here together, and I hope everyone else did. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It was good.
Yeah.
You're so welcome.
All
right. And I will get that email out next week.
Beautiful.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.